Welcome to another episode of Behind the Wheel. We get the real deal from behind the wheel.
Decision that they make in the state capital of the specific contract between the parties. In other words, brothers and sisters, when did you give anyone consent to govern you? You didn't. No, when did you give anyone consent? Okay, that the decision that they make in the state capital would apply to you. Who? You are a free spiritual moral being. No one can assume that authority, that they have the right to control or govern your spiritual conviction about a thing, unless but you know what, they're doing it. That's how they run this country. They're doing it, okay? Unless you file the proper paperwork to let them know that you no longer consent, that you revoke any consent or any understanding that they may have to make a decision for you without your consent. Okay? Just understand this is and that's how we've been living, man. Okay? So the closing paragraph, or not the closing paragraph, but the ending paragraph to this section of the document says, I am hereby notifying all who read this and any other interested parties that I have revoked my consent to be governed by fictitious corporate entities with which I do not have a subsisting contract. I declare that I am neither a child nor slave, but a free man capable of administering my own affairs. Again, why did I state that? Because the United States government automatically appropriates something called parens patriae over its citizens, which again is the doctrine that says I have the right and the power to be your parent and make decisions for you. I don't want them making decisions for me that I didn't agree to. Now, if I agree to it, if I agree to the decision, that's one thing. But to just make a decision and I don't agree to it, oh no. No, man. That's a dictatorship. Okay. So then it goes on to state the notice of understanding and claim intent and claim of right. And I'll just read very quickly through these points. Now, these are the points that the attorneys general would have to prove wrong, point by point. Okay, not one big statement where your document is in error. No, they'd have, according to the contracts as stated, they would have to prove line by line if it is in error or not. When I read this one, if it's good, check. Read the next statement. If it's good, check. Read the next statement. If it's good, check. Then read the next one. Oh, this one is not correct. Okay, this one is in error. Then they would have to let me know that that statement in particular is in error and why it is in error. If they cannot show me that, follow me. If they cannot show me that, then that means that this document becomes my contract with the United States government. This becomes my law. And the strongest document, the strongest thing in a courtroom is a contract. Okay? So let's read some of the statements that I have in here. Whereas it is my understanding, and notice I'm going to start off each statement by saying, it is my understanding. It is my understanding. Okay, Attorney General, it's my understanding. And that's why I'm asking you if I'm wrong in my understanding, then prove to me or show me where I am in error on this particular statement. If you can't, then this statement now becomes my law and everything else is automatic estoppel after this matter goes into effect. So let's see what some of the points that I've stated. Whereas it is my understanding, the United States of America, the United States of America is a common law jurisdiction. That's the first statement. Not a statutory law jurisdiction, a common law jurisdiction. Okay? My next statement. Whereas it is my understanding, equality before the law is paramount and mandatory. All right? My next statement. Whereas it is my understanding that a statute is defined as a legislated rule of a society which has been given the force of law. My next statement. And whereas it is my understanding, a society is defined as a number of people joined by mutual consent in deliberate determination and act for a common goal. Am I correct in this? Okay, because if that statement is correct, then that means I'm not a part of this society because I didn't mutually agree to it. I didn't consent to it. Okay, the next statement. Whereas it is my understanding, the only form of government recognized as lawful in the United States of America is a representative one. True or false? My next statement. Whereas it is my understanding, representation requires mutual consent. True or false? Next statement. Whereas it is my understanding that in the absence of mutual consent, neither representation nor governance can exist. True or false? Next statement. Whereas it is my understanding, those who have a social security number are in fact employees of the federal government and thus are bound by the statutes created by the federal government. True or false? Whereas it is my understanding that it is lawful to abandon one's social security number. True or false? Whereas it is my understanding, people in the United States of America have a right to revoke or deny consent to be represented and thus governed. True or false? Again, brothers and sisters, if you don't know your rights, you're no better off than those who have no rights. Okay? Next statement. Whereas it is my understanding, if anyone does revoke or deny consent, they exist free of government control and statutory restraints. True or false? Whereas, next statement, whereas a free man on the land or a free woman, if it's a female, a free woman on the land has lawfully revoked consent and does exist free of statutory restrictions, obligations, and limitations. True or false? Again, now remember, the authorities that this document is sent to would have to prove point by point, statement by statement. If it's false, show me where I'm wrong. If I'm not wrong, then what I'm stating now becomes my law. becomes my sovereign rule. Okay? So then I state, whereas I, and then my name, Ray Higgins, family of Higgins, Ray, family of Higgins, am a free man on the land. I'm declaring that. If you don't declare it, as they say in law, if it's not written down, it don't exist. Whereas I, as a free man on the land, and whereas it is my understanding that acting peacefully within community standards does not breach the peace, and that's very important to say, because that's what this is about, brothers and sisters, okay? When you write this document, when you submit this document, you want to be sure that they understand you are not trying to breach the peace. You're not trying to be anti-government. You're not trying to start some kind of organization or group to go against the government or other people. Okay? You're simply declaring what you understand as a peaceful person on the land. Next statement says, whereas it is my understanding that any action for which one can apply for and receive a license must itself be a fundamentally lawful action. Next statement, whereas I am a free man on the land who operates with full responsibility and not a child. I do not see the need to ask permission to engage in lawful and peaceful activities, especially from those who claim limited liability. True or false? Whereas it is my understanding, a bylaw is defined as a rule of a corporation. True or false? Whereas it is my understanding that corporations are legal fictions and require contracts in order to claim authority or control over other parties. True or false? Where it is my understanding, legal fictions lack a soul. Follow this. Where it is my understanding that legal fictions lack a soul and cannot exert any control over those who are thus blessed and operate with respect to that knowledge as only a fool would allow soulless fictions to dictate one's actions. True or false? My next statement, whereas it is my understanding that I have a right to use my property without having to pay for the use of or enjoyment of it. True or false? Yeah, that all right. Yeah, I can hear the questions in the ether coming from the questions. Okay, we'll answer all of the questions when we do the workshop. All right. And again, the workshop is tentatively for Tuesday, March the 8th. Tentatively. Okay. I got so much going on right now. But tentatively March 8th. But let me finish this document, then we'll talk more about that. Next statement. Whereas it is my understanding that a summons, that's right, a summons, okay, is merely an invitation to attend. That's right. Like a citation that you get or a summons when you get pulled over. Okay, it's my understanding that a summons is merely an invitation to attend, and the ones issued by the United States or any of its agencies creates no obligation or dishonor if ignored. Okay. Whereas it is my understanding, peace officers, okay, or we call them cops or law enforcement officers. Peace officers have a duty to distinguish between statutes and law. And those who attempt to enforce statutes against a free man on the land are in fact breaking the law. Next statement. Whereas I have the power to refuse intercourse or interaction with peace officers who have not observed me breach the peace. Let me say that again. I'm sure some of you guys out there would love to hear that sound right there. Okay, this becomes your law once this becomes your estoppel. Whereas I have the power to refuse intercourse or interactions. Okay, something's blocking my screen here. Bear with me. Okay. I have the power to refuse intercourse or interactions with peace officers who have not observed me breach the peace. In other words, this living under the power of common law pretty much states that you are not under statute law or you are no longer a statutory law citizen. All right. And as long as you are not doing any damage or harm to another person or their property, okay, hey, hands off. If you don't see me doing harm or damage to another person or their property, okay, you have nothing to say to me. You're not seeing. I'm not breaching the peace. Okay. Next statement. Whereas permanent estoppel by acquiescence, barring any peace officer or prosecutor from bringing charges against a free man on the land under any act is created if this claim is not responded to in the stated fashion and time. Let me read that paragraph to you again, because that paragraph is saying if what I've submitted is not invalidated within the specified time, then everything that I stated it becomes law for Ray Hagins. It becomes law for you. You follow what I'm saying? Or however you want to edit it or augment it, it becomes your document. It becomes your power. It becomes your law. So understand that paragraph again. Whereas permanent estoppel by acquiescence by any peace officer or prosecutor from bringing charges against a free man on the land under any act is created if this claim is not responded to in the stated fashion and time. And again, automatic estoppel, permanent estoppel means this matter cannot go any further. That's what estoppel means. Okay. And then, next statement paragraph says, therefore, be it now known to any and all concerned and affected parties that I, my name there, family of Hagins, a free man on the land, do hereby state clearly. And this is what I mean when I say declare who you are, declare what you are, declare what you understand things to be. Declare it. If you don't declare it, they're going to declare it for you. Okay, so it goes on to say, therefore, be it now known to any and all concerned and affected parties that I, my name, family of Hagins, a free man on the land, do hereby state clearly, specifically, and unequivocally my intent to peacefully and lawfully exist free of all statutory obligations and restrictions, and to maintain all rights at law to trade, exchange, or barter. That's your paragraph of power. That's what I would call that. My paragraph of power. Okay? Furthermore, goes on to say, furthermore, I claim that those actions that these actions are not outside of my community's standards, and I will in fact support said community in our desire for truth and maximum freedom. Furthermore, I claim the right to engage in these actions, and further claim that all property held by me is held under a claim of right. Furthermore, I claim that anyone who interferes with my lawful activities after having been served notice of this claim and who fails to properly dispute or make lawful counterclaim is breaking the law, cannot claim good faith or color of right, and that such transgressions will be dealt with in a properly convened court du jour, a court of the day. Furthermore, I claim that the courts in the United States are de facto and are not, in fact, in the profitable business of I'm sorry, not I didn't say not in fact, and are in fact, okay, in the profitable business of conducting witnessing and facilitating transactions of security interest. And I further claim they require the consent of both parties prior to providing any such services. Did y'all get that paragraph? Another paragraph of power. Let me read it to you one more time. Furthermore, I claim that the courts in the United States are de facto and are in fact in the profitable business of conducting, witnessing, and facilitating transactions of security interest. And I further claim they require the consent of both parties. The consent of both parties to providing any such services. True or false? Furthermore, I claim all transactions of security interest require the consent of both parties, and I do hereby deny consent to any transaction of a security interest issuing under any act for as herein as a free man on the land. I am not subject to any act. True or false? Okay, here's a good one. Furthermore, I claim my fee schedule. This is very important. I have a fee schedule in my document here. Okay? This is my claim of right. I claim my fee schedule for any transgressions by law enforcement officers, government principals, or agents or justice system participants. My fee schedule is $500 per hour or any portion thereof if I am questioned, interrogated, or in any way detained, harassed, or otherwise regulated, and $2,000 per hour or any part thereof if I am handcuffed, transported, incarcerated, or subjected to any adjudication process without my express, written, and notarized consent. True or false? If I cannot make that claim, then tell me why I cannot make it. Otherwise, my fee schedule is now my law. Furthermore, I claim the right to use a notary public to secure payment of the aforementioned fee schedule against any and all transgressors who may by their actions or omissions harm me or my interests directly or